Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef Dan. I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for your Week 15 first look. All right, guys. Before I deep dive into that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetChefD. And also, don't forget to sign up for the Patreon. Currently, you are getting daily DFS breakdowns plus betting advice as well. That comes all incorporated. If you have any other questions, please contact me on Instagram. All right, and I will definitely get back to you. Now, let's get straight to the video, man. First look at week 15. Obviously, there's a little bit less of amount of games for this week because there's going to be 2 games on Saturday. They're getting you prepared for the playoff. That's going to be the similar schedule for the playoffs. There's going to be games on Saturday and Sunday, okay? So at the end of this season, week 15, 16, 17, 18, there's going to be games on Saturday and Sunday. I will obviously have showdown breakdowns for those Saturday's games as well, okay, to get you guys prepared. Now, let's start off with the quarterback position, all right, for this week 15. I'll point out just a few guys that I'm really looking at. The first one we're going to talk about is the highest price one, and that is Josh Allen at $8,100 salary. Had a huge performance last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brought his team all the way back, but came up short at the end. But still, this is what we were expecting from Josh Allen from a lot of these games, especially week 13, week 11, even week 10 against the Jets. You expected him to have a bigger game than that. Against Jacksonville, only had 12 fantasy points. Finally, he came and excelled 42 fantasy points against Tampa Bay. Obviously, it was the back and forth type of game. Not technically, the Buccaneers got up first, and then the Bills fought back. But still, there was firepower on both sides that really built up Josh Allen to put him in a mode to really put up some points. Okay, so definitely going up against the Carolina Panthers, who have struggled the past 3 weeks, getting Cam Newton now, and then the defense has crumbled. A lot of problems are going on with the Carolina side of the ball, and we want to take advantage of that defense with Josh Allen and his plethora of weapons that he has at his disposal. All right. Next will be Kyler Murray going up against the Detroit Lions. This could be a matchup where obviously blowout can happen. Kyler Murray, hopefully he puts up the points. Not necessarily it's going to be the running game that's putting all of the points up. That's going to be the question mark. You got to battle with that. But Arizona can clearly, whitewash him in the first half. Kyler with 3 touchdowns, maybe a rushing TD. And then they kind of slow it down in the second half. That's what you're worrying about if you go the Kyler Murray route. If the Detroit Lions will keep it competitive, okay? But I think they've done that all season long, and I think Kyler Murray is still a safe play to go for at 7,900. The next guy we're really going to be keen on, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers it's matchup proof pretty much. He's been very solid the past 3 weeks, turning up against Minnesota, the Rams, and the Chicago Bears. Struggled against Arizona and Seattle. Now going up against the Baltimore Ravens. We're hoping that Lamar Jackson is going to be fine for this game, and that's going to boost Aaron Rodgers' upside as well in this. So obviously I like Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to like Lamar Jackson in this as well. The X factor will be the legs for Lamar Jackson. And on the Aaron Rodgers side, the arm and the fact that he has a top-tier elite wide receiver on his side. He's really clicking with Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Everything's coming all together for Green Bay. So I love Aaron Rodgers. I love Lamar Jackson. This is looking like another week where we're paying up at the QB position, all right? Matt Stafford, next guy at 7,000, who we're going to talk about going up against the Seattle defense without Jamal Adams. So they're losing the safety. They struggled all year. Matt Stafford had a great game against the Arizona Cardinals, threw 3 touchdowns. He has 3 games in a row with 3 touchdowns. I think he can go again for a 4th game with 3 touchdowns, and I think they'll have a really strong finish towards their playoff run, okay? But Stafford going up against Seattle, who's hurt on all levels, definitely someone to look at, Matt Stafford, okay? We're going to continue going down. Jalen Hurts is a solid option. You got to make sure he's healthy. A lot of question marks of who's going to really start. They do have Gardner Minshew, who was able to throw all over the New York Jets. Are they going to keep going with him, or are they going to go with Jalen Hurts? So you got to wait on news about him, but he has some upside of going against the 32nd ranked pass defense in the Washington football team. Dak Prescott going against the Giants is solid at 6,500. Let's see if we can find some gems down here. Let's see. Tua Tagovailoa at 5,700. Hey, I'm not biased. It's the Jets defense. I want to exploit the our poor defense 100%, definitely. Obviously, we cannot stop the run. And then also, our cornerbacks are questionable. We have a lot of young guys, especially in that back end of the secondary. He was able to come through with 18 fantasy points. So if we're looking at the cheaper quarterbacks, you could definitely look towards Tua. Maybe he gets maybe a couple more rushing yards, maybe a couple more TDs, and stay away from the interceptions. And hopefully, he can get you to that over 20 fantasy point production. That's what you want from him if you're paying this $5,700 price. Other than that, that's all I have for the first look. These guys under here, I keep looking at Cam Newton, and he keeps letting me down. I don't want to go there for right now. So we're going to stick with those choices, and let's move over to the running back position, okay? At the running back position, obviously, number one will be Najee Harris. Not only does he provide upside in the rushing department, but the receiving, okay? 3 targets last week, 5 against Baltimore, 5 against Cincinnati, 6 against the Chargers, and 4 against Detroit. So if they're in some bad situations, they have no problem with checking down the ball. Big Ben finally had a great game. Threw for, was it 3 touchdowns last week against Minnesota? So hopefully that can help this offense and help Najee Harris get that ball down the field so he can have some more opportunities in the red zone, all right? He had some weeks prior to the Minnesota game where he didn't get many end zone looks, 2 games with no touchdowns, and he's usually a touchdown guy. He already has 9 touchdowns this season, okay? So obviously, he's the number one running back. We're going to look towards him. Not really looking at Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think he's 100% right now, even though he will be getting most of the work with the backup currently hampered right now. So that's going to be a question mark right there, even though it is a good matchup. All right. It is a great matchup. But can we trust Zeke? He has not looked 100% as of late. He had the opportunity to take full amount of carries last week. Only had 12 for 45 yards and only had 1 reception on 6 targets. So 9 fantasy points is not going to cut it if I'm paying 7,000. All right, it really isn't. Joe Mixon, we're staying away from him against Denver. Denver strength is that run defense, so we're going to stay away from that. Cordarrelle Patterson at 6,900 has been a model of consistency, as you can see here. 6 for 58 in the TD, chipped in with 2 receptions against Tampa Bay. That was a tough matchup. They took a TD away from him as well. But the week prior to that, coming back from the bye, he had 2 touchdowns, 108 yards rushing, and came through with 2 receptions as well. Going up against the San Francisco 49ers, who their weakness is the rushing department. So they're definitely going to look at Cordarrelle Patterson to move the ball down the field. He's really usurped Mike Davis. And if they're going to have a chance to win against the 49ers, they're going to use their best weapon, that's Cordarrelle Patterson. So we'll throw him in there. Saquon Barkley, all right? Matchup is decent, but what I'm looking at is the increase of usage, all right? He started out fine at the beginning of the season, then got hurt. He came back. They slowly ramping him back up. And now last week came through with 16 attempts, 64 yards, 3 receptions on 3 targets, 31 yards, and a touchdown going up against the Chargers. Now going up against division rivals in the Dallas Cowboys. If we're looking for a weak point is the passing, but we understand the Giants are limited with their wide receivers, and now they have to use their main guy in Saquon Barkley as well. That's why you see the increase week by week. They're getting more confident in his health. Just hopefully he doesn't have another setback, and he should be fine. 6,500 is way too cheap for a top tier talent at running back position, and that's Saquon Barkley. Definitely willing to look towards him this week 15. James Conner, we're going to wait on news for him. If he's in and there's no Chase Edmonds, then he is a full lock, okay? James Conner is getting used every which way. It doesn't matter. Especially he's been taking advantage while Edmonds is out. We'll see if he's going to return from the IR. But currently, he was listed as a non-participant Wednesday on practice, so that can hamper things. He's dealing with an ankle issue. That's not something we're going to look forward to. But if he is cleared, then we're going to play him, and we have to make sure if Chase Edmonds is in or out. Okay, if he's in, then that can be somewhat sort of a cheaper option to look at. In this game against the Detroit Lions, say you see Arizona up big, they're going to use both their running backs. Okay. Uh, we're going to continue down. Let's see if we can find some better value. And that's going to be Javonte Williams, and that's going to be Melvin Gordon, okay? I'm going to talk about Javonte Williams first. All right, this man, rookie, but he has turned up. He's taking advantage of his 50% work share, and he has 3 games in a row of over 20 fantasy points. Really put in a very, very impressive production against the Chargers, Chiefs, and the Detroit Lions. Last week, splitting with Melvin Gordon, still was able to put up 15 attempts, 73 yards, a touchdown, and also a receiving touchdown as well. 21 fantasy points. He is now currently 6,100. They're going to use him, okay? They got to see what they have for him next year, so they're going to trust him in him more and more, okay? But he's still going to be splitting carries, but he's worth it. He's worth it. I'm willing to go that route, and I'm willing to go the route of Melvin Gordon as well. Despite the fact he's sharing, he's still putting up big performances. 24 carries last week, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The receiving work is going to go to Javonte. Most of the rushing work and red zone will be going to Melvin Gordon. This is a run team and play defense type of team in Denver, especially in that mile high air and that mile high altitude, especially when they're home. So they're going to be leaning on that again against Cincinnati, and I'm definitely willing to go with both of those guys. Let's see if I can find you some cheaper um, running backs before I move over. Um, Darrell Henderson. Okay, Darrell Henderson Jr. should be coming back from the COVID reserve list. We will see. Okay, we'll see. Obviously, you'll find out more on Saturday. But if he's going to be in, going against Seattle's Rushdie, across the board, their D is horrible. But he's going to be back in the fold, and he was very consistent while he was healthy. Okay, 17 fantasy points against Green Bay, 22 against Houston. And then this little stretch at the beginning of the season where it was 24, 16, 16, 17, that's what you want to see. He was getting you well over 15 fantasy points each and every game, filling the stat sheet with the rushing and the receiving. Fell off a little bit against San Francisco and Tennessee, but the production was still there, okay? The opportunity was still there. If he's coming back from COVID, definitely going to play him at 5,900. And then last but not least, we're going to go with Devonta Foreman for the Tennessee Titans. He emerged as the number 1 back. Taking advantage of his carries last week going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had a solid performance against the Patriots, 19 on 109 against a very solid run defense. Then came back against Jacksonville, 13 rushing attempts, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Came through with 2 receptions on 15 yards receiving, back-to-back 14.2 fantasy points performances. If I'm looking for someone to just to fill in, and especially against Pittsburgh, we saw what they were capable, what they did against those other teams. The other teams ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers, as you see, 30th ranked against rushing. Donta Foreman, maybe he's kind of finally turning things around, finally healthy. Maybe we can get a big, big game from him, and they'll definitely should be able to lean on his shoulders instead of Hilliard or Jeremy McNichols. I like Donta Foreman at 5,200. I think he is worth the risk. All right. Now let's move over to the wide receivers. Wide receivers position. The main guys, obviously, like I say always, pair your wide receivers with your quarterback. If I got Josh Allen, give me Stephon Diggs. Okay. Just if you want to get creative, then add in the second guy. All right, you got Josh Allen, you got Stephon Diggs, and then you pick and choose between Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley. Okay, but make sure you bring that back with someone else. If I'm choosing someone else in that game, that Carolina Buffalo, then I'll bring it back with DJ Moore. Or you could be sneaky with Robbie Anderson because he had a very strong performance last week as well. So always, if I'm doing Kyler Murray, there's no DeAndre Hopkins. So that means AJ Green and Christian Kirk. definitely going to hop on those type of guys. All right, so let's continue on. Let's find you the mid-tier wide receivers. We already know the standouts for wide receiver. I'll definitely key in on the final look on the wide receiver position, but let's see some value that we have down here. Um, as I said before, DJ Moore in a solid position going up against the Buffalo Bills. They're going to be down. They need to feed their number one option at wide receiver targets. Okay, targets is the key. Back-to-back games with 10 plus targets. He just needs to get in end zone. He had 14 fantasy points and then 17 against Miami. I like what I see out of DJ Moore. I think he has a strong finish to this campaign. Chase Claypool. If we can get another good Big Ben game, then we can finally get a big burst from Chase Claypool, and this is the perfect matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Their weakness is that secondary, and if he's obviously all the attention is going to be on Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool is coming under the radar. A lot of mental mistakes from him, but he is a huge X factor, okay? Only has one touchdown all year long. That will quickly turn around. I think he can finish out this year very, very strong. And look at this. Passing defense, ranked 22. Rushing defense, ranked second. So you're gonna attack them with the wide receivers. They have two great wide receivers in Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. Let's go with the cheaper version at 5,900. I love him there. All right. Another guy we can look at is Russell Gage getting a ton of looks. Okay, last week had 6 targets, 4 receptions, didn't get in the end zone. But the week prior, Tampa Bay 11 for 12 for 130. That's the type of upside we're looking at. Okay, and then the week prior to that, 6 receptions, 7 targets, 62 yards, and a TD. His connection with Matt Ryan is something to look forward to because Kyle Pitts has been very up and down. Let me get someone that's a little more consistent, and that's going to be Russell Gage. Let's see if we can get some other cheap guys at this wide receiver position below 5,800. We're going to scroll down. Obviously, I like Jerry Jeudy currently at 5,400. He's a solid play. We're waiting on news about Odell Beckham. He was placed on the reserve COVID list. If he's going to be out, then we can definitely take advantage of this and go to Van Jefferson at 5,600. I told you about his route running. He has 3 games in a row with a touchdown. Definitely, if Odell Beckham is going to be out, Cooper Kupp gets a whole lot of love, but also the trickle down will go to Van Jefferson Jr. as well. Love him at 5,600. Okay, let's see. There's more. There's so many value wide receivers this week. Christian Kirk with no DeAndre Hopkins. I spoke about this. Christian Kirk and AJ Green are going to be big monsters. Okay, going up against the Detroit Lions. As long as they keep this game close, well, it's an air raid offense anyway. They're going to be putting up points. Christian Kirk and AJ Green should feast. Okay, they should definitely feast. 5,300 is Christian Kirk, and then AJ Green will be 4,900, even cheaper. All right, even cheaper. And I'll throw him in there as someone below 5,000. I was looking for a little more, value wide receivers. AJ Green is that guy for you right there. All right, now let's move over to the tight end position. I'll key in on some, final looks wide receivers on Saturday. But for now, that is going to be our value pool right there. DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, no pun intended, Russell Gage, and AJ Green / Christian Kirk. Okay, you can't go wrong with either one of those. And then last but not least will be our tight end position. George Kittle, obviously having a little bit of bump in the road at the middle of the season, and he's finally turning it up at the end of the season. Back-to-back games of well over 10 targets. 9 for 181, and then against Cincinnati, 13 for 151 with a TD. I wish he was doing this at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, all season long. He's finally paying off if you paid up for him. Now, we got to go back to the well. We got to continue it. Obviously, they're in need to make the playoffs. And this is their main guy right here. Between Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, that's going to be their main guys. I love George Kittle at his price at 7,500. Have no problem paying that price. All right. Mark Andrews is going to be another guy. It doesn't matter if it's going to be Lamar Jackson or Huntley. He's getting a ton of targets. Look at these results. 8, 10, 10, 9, and 11. Okay? in the last 5 weeks. He has been outstanding, putting together another 1,000-yard receiving campaign from him. Maybe he can get the 100 catches as well. Mark Andrews has been a very good tight end this year. He's someone to look at. Zach Ertz is in a good position going up against Detroit, but this is a lot of options here. I mean, you can't pick every single Arizona Cardinal, but hey, you never know. They could just put up 48 points on them, okay? Similar to what the Chiefs did to the Raiders, okay? Dallas Goedert has been a, steady choice. Obviously took advantage of the Jets' poor defense. 6 receptions, 6 targets, 105 yards, and 2 TDs. We had no one to stop this man. He's a great option at 5,300. And then also, last but not least, will be Mike Gesicki. Let's go back to the well. You see the Jets on the schedule, you take full advantage, okay? Mike Gesicki has 7 receptions, 11 targets, 46 yards. 11 targets? This is not a wide receiver, this is a tight end. Now going up against the Jets, if he's getting that type of attention against the Jets, he's going to have a very similar performance to what Dallas Goedert did to us last week. So definitely do not forget about Mike Gesicki. If you want to save some salary from George Kittle, I would definitely recommend as my number 2 guy is Mike Gesicki, okay? All right, and that will be our first look for Week 15. If you have any questions, comment down below. Let me know if you got a guy that you like more at QB, running back, wide receiver, or the tight end position. I'll be definitely, glad to do a little debate there, all right? Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MessengerSD, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Peace out.